Welcome to The Short Score, your weekly update of roping news from around the industry, where you can find the latest on the sport from the pro rodeo ranks to the jackpot world. I'm Taylor Vollen, and I'm your host. Good morning, everyone. It's Taylor Vollen, the host of The Short Score. Thank you guys for listening this morning, and I hope you guys have a good week. If you've been keeping up with our website and social medias, you'd have come across our story with Gonzalez, the 20-year-old who heels for 2018 NFR header Bubba Buckaloo and currently sits in the top 5 of the Resisto Rookie of the Year race. On this episode of The Short Score, Lillian Kent, junior Western digital content producer for the Breakaway Roping Journal, BarrelRacing.com, and the Team Roping Journal, caught up with JR to get the lowdown on the year he's having, his partnership with Bubba, and so much more. Keep in mind that when Lillian talked to JR, he was actually third in the rookie standings, but with a busy weekend of rodeos, standings inevitably shifted.
Hey Lillian, I'm doing good. We're over here at Ellensburg, Washington.
Awesome. What have the last few days looked like for you guys?
Oh my goodness, it's been smoky up here.
Yeah.
It's been smoky. It's been pretty smoky. It's finally cleared out today, and we can finally see the mountains. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's like I gotta borrow one of those nebulizers from a barrel girl.
I know. We were up at Kennewick yesterday, and it was a lot thicker there than it was here, and it was a lot easier to get a headache there than it was here in Ellensburg.
Oh man, I can't even imagine. Aside from the sleep and the caffeine and probably the bad food,
I know.
And then you're like, and what is my headache from this morning?
Exactly. Yep. And it was just you just smell you could smell the smoke there yesterday morning. You couldn't really smell it here at Ellensburg yesterday, but it was pretty bad yesterday.
Oh man. Well, I'm really excited to get to talk to you today, get to talk about your cool pony, and, nothing better than talking about horses, right?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. I enjoy it a lot, too.
Awesome. Well, first, give us a little primer, kind of who you are. You said you're from Laredo, and
yes, ma'am.
Just give us a little rundown with that.
Well, my name's J.R. Gonzalez. I am from Laredo, Texas. I am 20 years old, and every horse I've ever owned has either come from Mexico or Laredo.
All right.
Up until this year, just recently got help getting another horse. I ended up buying Brad Kreitz's heel horse that he made finals on last year, which I'm very fortunate to have. So I've got him now too, but I don't ride him as much as I do my other little sorrel pony now. I think I might finish the fourth quarter on my other my other horse. So, but yep.
What's
I've been roping for quite a bit now.
Okay.
And I started roping when I was 11, and it's been history ever since.
Nice. So what's it feel like to be riding horses that don't come from Mexico, or basically Mexico?
That's funny you say that, because I've had this conversation a lot with a lot of people, and it's I don't know, it's like if you've been driving a 99 Ford for about 10 years and then you get in a 2023 GMC. I don't know. It's definitely they've got cruise control.
Yeah, you're like, how do I work this thing?
They've got cruise control.
Yeah, they got active driving assist and airbags, and
they've got power steering too.
Oh my gosh.
In the beginning I had a little bit of a rough time kind of getting used to them, but I knew that if I got my hands on them, it would really help me in the long run.
Yeah.
Just because I've seen that horse go a lot, and he's a really good horse, and his name is Cherry.
Okay.
He's 11 years old, and Brian did a phenomenal job on him. And when he came up to me and told me he was putting him up for sale, I knew that if I didn't get on it, I knew somebody else was going to. So
Wow.
I figured I went ahead and capitalized on the opportunity.
Wow. How great is it that he came up to you and
it felt good because, well, there for a while I had been looking for a horse, and I guess he heard that I wasn't. Bubba's from Oklahoma, and my partner, Bubba Buckaloo, and he's from Oklahoma, and so is Brian. I guess Bubba had been asking people for horses too, because he was the one that helped me ask for them as well, because he knows a lot more people than I do.
Yeah.
And we were at a roping in Oklahoma, and Brian came up to me and told me, "Hey man, I've got my good heel horse up for sale. Obviously, Brian's not heeling anymore. He's kind of stuck to the heading now." Mm-hmm. And he came up to me and he was honest. He said, "Man, I don't think I'm going to be doing much heeling anymore. I've got a couple horses at the house that I can still heel on, but I need to get rid of this one so I can buy another head horse." And I was like, "Well, You know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot." And it all worked out, and that's pretty good.
Awesome. So, talked about the new horse. Let's take a few steps back and kind of talk about, did you start in the heeling? Kind of talk me through what coming up was like.
Well, it started off, I was in elementary school, and I wanted to get into roping, and I kind of didn't at the same time. It sounds really bratty of me because of now it's I don't enjoy doing anything else. But I used to play basketball. I know a Mexican playing basketball doesn't sound very normal, but I played a lot of basketball in elementary, and my dad would call me after school. "Hey, do you want to come rope? Hey, and I'd always kind of be like, I've got basketball practice. I don't think I'm going to go. But I'd always end up going after basketball practice.
You're like, "Don't you know, Dad, I'm going to be 6'5" one day."
Yeah. Which I'm definitely not. I don't think Mexicans go to be 6'5", but the NBA wasn't in our favor, so I had to pick up a rope, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
So, I started roping at around 11. I'd always ridden a horse. Just, rode around, and I never really picked up a rope until I was about 10 or 11, and I started roping with my dad at home, and my dad had always, told me that if I wanted to get better, I needed to learn how to be consistent, and it was a lot of late night practices, and I thank my dad for a lot, because he really was the one that pushed me into making sure that if the steer wasn't in a good spot for me to throw my rope, then I shouldn't throw my rope at all. And I'd spend hours and hours and hours following my dad around. No matter how long it took for me to throw my rope, he'd always make sure that no matter how long I followed the steer, to always make sure I caught 2 feet. So we'd start practicing at about, it gets really hot down there.
Oh yeah.
Really hot. So we'd probably start roping at about 8:30, 9ish, even on school nights. I'd stay out there and we'd get back home around midnight, but he'd turn me steers, and I wouldn't throw any time before the 4th hop. And we have a mare back home that we still have, and she was just older, but she would let me just track. So my dad always put me on her, and she did a great job of letting me push her around and do whatever I needed to do. So we kind of got that down. We got the basics down on being consistent, and then my dad, it took me about 5 months before my dad let me enter anywhere. And I entered my very first roping at the Rose Palace in San Antonio, where they used to hold
Yeah.
And they have, people in South Texas are crazy. They have these 150-man go once, or 150-man enter up, pick one, draw 5, draw 6, but they paid back like 50%, but the poster said they had 80 buckles, so, everybody in the state went, every low number at least.
Oh, yeah. So, now, remind me what happened to the Rose Palace, because I think it was in danger there a couple years ago, right?
See, that's the thing. I'm not too sure whatever happened, because, I always wanted to, I ever since I started going and watching the George Strait, I always wanted to enter, and then I never got to, and I never did ask around too much as to what happened. So I don't know. I really don't know what happened.
Somebody's gotta bring this back.
Yes, yeah, they definitely do. So I don't really know what happened, but I mean, hell, they still have ropens there. And I know Matthews Landing Kick will have a bunch of World Series, big World Series ropens there, but I don't know.
Okay.
So it all started with just, those little low number opens down there, and I won my very first buckle there, and then we went to another open next week, and then I won another buckle, and I was on, holy cow, it felt like cloud nine for me. It was the best feeling ever. I just won 2 buckles in 2 weekends, and then I went to another open the third weekend of that month, and it just went terrible. So as quick as I got to get on my high horse, I was as quick to get off,
Yeah.
But I think that taught me a lot. It did, because as soon as we got done there, the next day it was a Monday, and I remember we had school off on Monday for whatever reason, and my dad woke me up that morning, and he said, let's go up. We need to work on your mistakes and work on what you think you did wrong. So we did that a lot. He did it. He helped me fix my mistakes, and it was more or less of me just trying to throw fast and ended up broken the leg or just missing, and it was just kind of back to the basics where he would help me make sure I tracked enough to where I knew I could catch 2 feet every time. So I think in the long run it did help me a lot, and I think to this day I still think about it. I still think, because there's been a lot of situations this year where, it's better off catching a steer by 2 feet if I take one more swing instead of trying to take a risky shot and throw my rope and either catching a leg or missing. So,
well, and
for that I thank him. So
maybe it's not as big a mindset difference as I think it is, but I remember talking to Rich Skelton, and talking about how a lot of the younger generation really just want to throw.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's right. He's right. I've always wanted to go fast, and just like everybody else. Everybody wants to throw fast, but I've got to. By the time let's say you try and crossfire a steer, and the steer gets in tow, and he still has to take one more hop before you get your slack right and have to dally. So I think if you take one more swing at the corner and heel in the second hop and finish strong, I think you're liable to be as fast as you were if you during the corner than if you heeled in first legal or second. I don't know. I think it's been I've looked at it a lot of ways this year, and it's definitely I've thought about it for a long time, but it's something that I also try not to overthink, because that's more of a mind game, and
I know,
make sure your mind's in the right spot. But I guess when you have the feel of it, go for it. But I that's kind of the way that I've been looking at it here recently.
Well, and you could be a philosopher about it, and there's a time for that, right? But you're paid to rope steers, so.
Exactly. Yeah. You're paid every time, so.
Awesome. So the whole premise, right, was get to talk about your cool horse ASAP, the horse from Laredo, Mexico.
ASAP. That's right. Yep, he's from Laredo, Mexico. I guess that too. That's pretty much the same thing. My house is about 15 minutes from the Tamaulipas border.
Well,
The border is right there. It's about 15 minutes if you stand on the back porch of my house. You can see the Mexican flag flying across the river.
There you go. That's where you go to get your doctor's appointments and your dental and your everything.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's right. We've been over there quite a bit of times to go to the doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
ASAP is 10 years old. My dad bought him. Well, I've had him since he was a yearling. He came from an older guy down in my hometown. He didn't want much to do with him, and my dad has always liked to buy and flip horses. So he bought this little drawn-up yearling from this guy for $1,200, and he brought him back to our place and took real good care of him and let him fill out before we got anything done on him. as soon as he turned 2, my dad had a guy go ahead and start breaking the horse and teaching him how to stop and all the basic stuff. I guess when you try and break a horse, he wasn't taught to be a fancy horse though.
Okay.
He doesn't stop when you sit down on your butt, on your saddle, or push your legs forward. None of that. It's more of a like, when you ask him to stop, he will. But if you don't ask him to stop, he won't. Until you either throw your rope or like pull up a little bit on your rein, which I think every healer does every once in a while.
Yeah.
Then he'll stop. He's a very good listener.
So he keeps it simple.
Yeah, it's very simple. it is very simple. He learned the basic stuff pretty quick though. He was never one to buck. Maybe a little cold back here and there, but never anything harsh. So he was ready to start tracking the dummy and late steer, etc. Well, when we thought he was ready to start doing all the heel horse stuff, we had the same guy that broke him try and teach him to make a corner and follow the cow. And all I can say was it was a bit rough. It was kind of rough. My dad, being a header, originally wanted ASAP to be a head horse, but he never was the biggest one in the herd. So we stuck to heeling, although it seemed like it was going to be a long journey. But right before my 14th birthday, we decided my dad was going to let me start heeling on him. And, I was excited and, thought to myself, well, this should be easy. All I got to do is ride around the corner and heel 2 feet and just track the steer until, I have a good shot.
Yeah, you're like, this is what I'm good at this. I've won buckles.
Yeah, I've won 2 buckles. Oh my God, I'm on. And, the amount of steers ASAP and I have ran in the practice spin is, it's nothing short of, it's a lot. We ran a lot of steers together. If he wasn't cutting to the inside and bumping steers, knocking them down, he was getting really strong and, wanting to ride by or ride too high, and I fractured my toe, or, this was bad. He tried to cut the corner so bad that one time he tried to cut the corner and I wasn't letting him, and he just kind of pushed more.
Uh-huh.
He was kind of one of the ones that if you tried holding him back, he'd kind of push against you a lot more. And he just rammed my foot into the steer, knocked the steer down. I didn't rope for a while. It was just, I was almost ready to give up on it.
So,
I really was.
How long ago was that?
That was, let's see. So that was probably 5.5, maybe 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. That was 5.5, 6 years ago. And, after a lot of bumping heads together, I started, taking him to youth rodeos that I would go to at the time. They had these little youth rodeos around Texas that they called the AJRAs.
Mm-hmm.
And, I took him to the very first rodeo of the season that they had in Stephenville at the Lone Star Arena.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wasn't old enough to drive, so my dad would always have to pay somebody to take me up there. And, so we would go up there, and it was one of those deals where you would run one steer one day, and then your other steer on Sunday.
Okay.
So we would, the very first time I ended up taking him, I took him to Stephenville. We got there, and it was 38 degrees.
That'll make you cold backed.
Yeah, it was 38 degrees, and I was just like, great, Well, we got there, I threw a saddle on him, and the saddle was about 5 inches off his back, and I'm just sitting there contemplating life at this point. And Travis Graves' kids are running around, and Tyler McKnight's kids are running around, and it's just the whole bunch here, but, I rode him around. I made sure to get on him about an hour before the last perf started, which is what we were in, and warmed him up pretty good. And I felt really good. But it's not that I didn't trust him. It was just a matter of I didn't know how he would take the pressure that I was about to ask him.
Mm-hmm.
Which back then, may not have been much because it was a youth rodeo.
Yeah, but you guys were young.
Yeah. It took 5 seconds to win one of those youth rodeos. So at the time, it felt like I was asking him for his life.
Yes.
So we ended up running our steer, and we were like 5'8", and we ended up winning second. And it felt amazing. And I think right then and there is when I kind of started thinking about how, I think if I just keep roping on him and keep taking him and keep showing him all these kinds of scenarios, I think he can easily be my number one.
Mm-hmm.
So after that youth rodeo, I went back home. I told my parents all about it. And, my dad and my mom were real happy for me, and they would keep entering me at all these rodeos and stuff. And I kept going and going and going. I think as I kept going, he just kept getting better, which turned out in my favor. And here we are.
So what made you keep going with him? Those times when you thought it wasn't going to work out, you guys weren't making the progress, you're butting heads. Why did you keep going?
I think it was more of a. Once we got past that stage where it was hard for us to get along with each other, it just felt like it was getting better steer by steer. It was kind of one of those things. I know that there's a lot of horses out there that just feel better after every single steer that you run on them. And I was very fortunate that after we got past that stage, it started feeling like that. And it wasn't just, it wasn't just him. I didn't ride the best. I didn't know much. I didn't know how to use my feet too well. I didn't know how to use my left hand as well as I do now. I'm not great or anything, but I think it's a lot better than it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was more of a progression as we went together, and felt like we weren't moving backwards.
You guys are the poster children of, they say, buy your kid a broke horse. Well, you bought your kid a green horse, and you guys figured it out together.
Yep, and I couldn't have asked for it any other way because I don't know where I'd be without ASAP, honestly. I think ASAP helped me accomplish a lot of things up to this year and, the years before, and he's helped me win a lot, and he's helped me get out of a lot of slumps, and he's always been my kind of go-to horse where if I know I need to win, I know I can get on ASAP, and I think it was more of a, he's always been faster too. I think that's why I like him so much, is because he's always been the one to hit a second gear once you leave the box and get me in such a good spot where I know I can, if I have to heel fast, I know I can, but if I have to heel one in the second and third hop, I know I can create a pretty good pocket between me or the steer no matter where he is, and he'll still give me a fair shot. So
if someone told you 6 years ago that ASAP was going to be a pro rodeo heel horse, what would you have said?
I probably would have thought you were crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I probably would have called their bluff on it and told them they were lying. But honestly, I think some things work out the way that you want them when you don't know that they're gonna work out.
Mm-hmm.
And like in this situation, I think if somebody came up to me and told me that ASAP was gonna be my best rodeo horse, in the future, I think I'd try to do a lot of things different, and things wouldn't be the way they are today.
Yeah, can't force it.
Can't force it. Yep, exactly.
Awesome. Right. So, I know you said he's pretty simple to operate. What makes him a good heel horse?
I think, what? ASAP's not a three-figure horse. He's not a futurity horse. He's not one of... he doesn't look like all these, three-figure horses, but I think what makes him such a good horse for me is the fact that now I know what he's going to do every single time, and that I know when I get on him, and I know the kind of situation that I'm in, it's like he reads the play as well as I do.
That's really fun.
Sometimes even if I do miss a spec, he's there to pick up the pieces for me because he's just a great horse. You know, he's nothing short of. I don't know if I'd say a miracle, but he is. I mean, he's definitely a big part. He plays a big part in what made me today. You know.
Well, when he was purchased, you know, he wasn't supposed to be this great horse.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He was supposed to be a head horse, but he didn't quite turn out to grow as much as my dad thought he was. And he ended up coming. My dad ended up making the decision that he was just going to be a heel horse, and he wasn't going to let me keep him. He was just going to break him, have him where he tracks steers good enough, and sell him. But I guess I don't know what my dad saw in him, or for me to have the ability to be able to ride that horse for such a long time. But I mean, to this day, I still thank him because, you know, it was his decision.
That's awesome. So what's ASAP like to be around on the ground?
Oh my goodness! I wish you were here because ASAP is the biggest puppy. I love him to death. My girlfriend loves him to death. Everybody that's around him, that has ever been around him, love ASAP to death. He's like your 1,300-pound dog. He's super sweet. You go up to him and you pet him. There's times in the mornings where we'll catch him laying down, and Madison's gone up to him and she's laid with him, and he'll just sit there and let her rub his belly. And he's just a sweet horse. I mean, he's a sweetheart. He really is.
Says this life is the life for me.
Yep, exactly. He's finally made the decision. He made that choice about 5-6 years ago that he really enjoyed his job, so he might as well enjoy life too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, zooming out a little bit, kind of give us a brief overview of what this rookie year has looked like for you and Bubba.
Well, you know, it's been pretty good. I've been really blessed with a lot of opportunities and a lot of being able to go to a lot of places, and I'm really glad that I was able to do this with Bubba because he's taught me a lot of things. You know, he's been there quite a bit of times. Obviously, he's been there, done that. So it's been a learning experience, but it's also had its ups and downs. You know, I think the very first big rodeo that I had ever gone to was Austin, and I didn't do my job at Austin, and Bubba did a great job. And you know, I was pretty upset because in my mind I was like, you know, this is a pretty big obstacle that I have to overcome. I have to make sure I catch a steer by 2 feet, and the first thing I did was not that. So after that, I was pretty bummed, and Bubba told me, like, he came up to me and he was like, hey man, you know, like, you can't worry about this too much because there's still a lot of rodeos left, and if you let this one overcome you, then how are you going to overcome the rest? And it's been a lot of being able to forget about the losses. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of that, which, you know, before I started rodeoing this year, I always heard guys talk about how, oh, you know, it's a mind game out here, and if you don't have a good mentality, then it's not going to work out for you. And I always thought about that, and I was like, you know what, I think over the years I've grown to grow a pretty good mentality about things, and pretty positive whenever things aren't going my way. But I don't blame anybody that says that it's harder, that it's a lot harder than it looks, because it's the truth. It is. It's really easy to let your demons overcome you out here.
Mm-hmm. Get in your own head.
Yep, it is. That's probably the hardest thing to do out here, is not getting your own head. And as easy as it may sound, you know, but once you're out here, it's a whole different ballgame.
Mm-hmm.